Hello, and thank you for taking the time to watch my video. It is a video, let me show you. It moves, it moves. I'm going to stop and start as we progress through. It's a very shaky video. Maybe I'm the shaky one, but I'm going to compensate by artistically zooming out of the South African sunrise like I did, panning around and bringing you to the entrance of the rustic abode that is the topic of this video. You'll see immediately that it is very rustic. The fence is made out of quarter rounds from a sawmill, a local sawmill. Same material makes the wall of the background structure on the left. The right hand side is a shadecloth nursery with reclaimed plastic, and the wooden poles are gum trees from the forest in the background. Emma, my partner, and I have lived here for 5 years. Very comfortably, very happily, largely living a mostly outdoor lifestyle. You'll see the structures now that we live in and our lives unfold around more. I'll comment on the solar panels soon. I had to film this video during the flowering of this cactus. A really beautiful flower, very rare. It sparkles and fades. The bees go crazy for it. And just a reminder of nature's beauty and impermanence. Also the cycles of nature, and living outdoors, you see that kind of thing more often, or at least you're cognizant of it more often. That cactus was only 30 centimeters tall when I planted it. It's grown so quickly, probably because I peed on it a lot during the years. Same story with the yellowwood tree in the middle of the image at the moment, and on the right hand side there's another yellowwood tree. Great spot to take a quick leak. Moral of the story: piss on everything. Okay, bottom left of the image, you'll see a square foot garden. It's 1.2 meters by 1.2 meters. The sides of it are made by recycled or reclaimed vibrocrete. At least we call it here in South Africa, vibrocrete. And those are normally slabs that go between cement pillars that make up walls. Those walls sometimes fall over or come down, and then I pick up the pieces when I see them. So there's 3 of those square feet gardens. Each square foot garden is made up by 16 square feet, and the square foot approach is really nice because it helps you learn about how many vegetables you can plant into a space of a square foot. So you know you can plant 1 tomato plant or 1 cabbage, but in the same space you can also plant like 12 carrots or 9 onions or 4 potatoes, etc. The guide is online, lots of square foot gardening guides online, check it out. The garden to the right of that, which looks quite overgrown at the moment, is a keyhole bed garden, and the idea of a keyhole bed garden is that in the middle there's a little hole, the keyhole, and from there you can access everything in that bed. So we experimented with different methods of making beds. Oh, hello cat, that's our master, we are its slaves. Alright, that is the shadecloth nursery we've just zoomed past. It, like I said earlier, has lasted for more than 3.5 years. Very simple structure to make, and I learned a lot about structures just by, playing with poles that I pulled out of the alien forest behind this abode. Really served its purpose really well. Okay, so that's another square foot garden, a bit blurry, sorry about that, but we've got pepperdews on the right, brinjal or eggplant in the middle. That's kale on the left hand side, wild dagga at the bottom. No, you can't smoke it, though I haven't tried. Alright, the wood chip floor. Oh, that's quite a trippy freeze frame, isn't it? The wood chip floor, notice that there's no cement added, no concrete added to this abode, and we've lived like that for 5 years quite comfortably. A really viable floor, although it might be a fire risk. That was a pepperdew. Doctor's fingers, bottom left, very medicinal plant, much better than any pharmaceutical I've ever used to heal wounds, and I get a lot of those considering the sort of practical physical lifestyle. Now those beds are well mulched. You can see the mulch there. That's straw from a local horse stable. There's not a lot planted right now. This is a drought season. This is recorded at least during a drought season. So, it wasn't really water-wise to plant a lot of stuff that ultimately wasn't fruiting, because vegetables battle to fruit in a drought season. So what is nice is that there's a lot of potential to plant vegetables, yeah. All you would need would be a tray of seedlings, and you can just put it into these beds that are waiting for the seedlings. Another square foot garden, moving past some kale, a coastal oak indigenous tree there. This window frame, just to talk about buildings, this structure went up with the materials that I could find cheaply, locally available. And the window frame that you're looking at kind of just got slotted into the building. I found it online for really cheap. You can get a lot of cheap secondhand materials online. That is still a form of recycling. Okay, so note the diversity, the abundance. There's no one crop. There's no lawn. There's nothing mono about this. It's a very diverse system. Walking past the 2 yellowwood trees and now into the shadecloth nursery, which there's not too much to write home about over here at the moment, but at various stages, this nursery was full of seedlings that would then go out into the gardens. This, like I said, was drought season and in summer, so just a different phase of it. Entering now the main section in which we live. Obviously, the entire area is lived in, but that section we'll come back to. All right, the rocket stove. If you don't know about rocket stoves, do some research. Amazingly efficient wood-burning stove. Makes a bit of smoke when you start it up, but because of the rapid rate at which the burn occurs, there's not much smoke that comes out of it. So we cook on this rocket stove definitely once a day, if not twice a day. We have other methods of cooking, and I'll show you those. Just note, it does look a bit messy, but people love it. People really come and stand around the rocket stove, and are just, it's that whole cooking on fire approach. But of course, it's also a very efficient approach. You can just use the twigs from a garden or a park. Going on a walk, you can pick up some combustible wooden materials. The cat just making sure that I'm behaving. All right, that's another view of the main living area. You can see it's a seating area. On the right, it's a kitchen area. I think we'll go into that at some point. Note that on the preparation surface, where there's a couple of coffee cups, there's more Vibrocrete slabs. Those Vibrocrete slabs actually line the inside of that cupboard. It's sort of our cold cupboard. We don't have a fridge, and on that note, we don't have any real appliances. No geyser or boiler, no washing machine, dishwasher, etc. It's a very rustic lifestyle, and we've lived it for 5 years, and I'm not going back to a less rustic lifestyle unless I absolutely have to. So the point is, you be creative. You become a creator because of necessity. I don't think a lot of people these days even know what is necessary for survival, because we're so conditioned to believe that we need the luxuries. I don't think we do. All right, the wooden floor continues. You'll see a lot of old stuff in here. That stuff gradually was accumulated and added. It wasn't like we hoarded it and then, had to do something with it. Rather, you make your space and then fill it with what you can find, preferably, reclaimed, recycled, secondhand materials. The middle of the image, you'll see a platform on which a 2-ring gas cooker sits. You'll see the kettle there. So that is used often just to boil 1 or 2 cups of water for coffee or tea or whatever. It's not really time efficient to go and make a rocket stove fire. So that is used daily, but normally for small heating or cooking purposes. There's another method of cooking that we'll see soon. Oh, hello Genghis. Watch out for Genghis. He rules the roost. Does live up to his name. All right, the solar system. Thank you, Genghis. The solar power system. Very, very simple system. I must take the time to comment on this briefly. I wanted to go into solar for years, and I did a lot of research, most of which I accumulated via the online forums. Often on those forums, people would put me off of going into solar. They would say you need to work out your exact electricity needs first, and then calculate the size of your system, and then you get the components. Well, I had been given a panel, and then all I did was buy a charge controller, which you're looking at on the left hand side, and the battery, and hooked them all up, and then adapted my needs to this solar power system. So I know that now that I can run a hell of a lot of lighting with this system, as well as my laptop computer. And that gives me sort of a frame of reference to approach how I can use solar power in the future. I'm not looking at what I want, the wish list, and then sizing things to that. I'm looking at what I can achieve with my savings, my income, and then adapting my usage to the components. I think that's a more sustainable way. Okay, so those two lights, the left-hand one, 3 LED, 3 watts, lights up that entire room with a lovely warm glow. However, the light on the right-hand side, that's 2 LEDs, and it's 0.68 of a watt. A colder light, but it really lights things up. 0.68 of a watt. You can, yeah, that's nothing compared to most people's lighting. It's literally nothing compared to most people's power needs. Okay, so that was a shit shelf where you tend to throw things in a more rustic environment. These are 2 figs on the left-hand side, indigenous trees. Notice how there's a lot of trees just in the middle of everything, the main living area. Makes it really easy to care for them and pee on them. Okay, so we're going into the cabin or shack, and the main feature of this, I would say, personally, I think maybe Emma would have a different notion of what the main feature is, but that thermal mass heater, the bricks, 2 small chimneys basically. The one is where the fire burns on the shorter one, and the wood goes straight down into that. It doesn't like lie down in a pile of wood. This rather, the fire burns horizontally at the bottom of the chamber into the taller chimney, which then channels the warmth upwards. The room starts getting warm within 10 minutes of lighting the fire because the metal flue radiates the warmth outwards. It takes about half an hour for the bricks to be quite warm, and then the room's warming up quite a lot. Within an hour and a half, all of those bricks are really, really hot, and the whole room is really crispy warm. So by 2 hours, you let the fire go out, but then the bricks stay warm for 3, 4, sometimes 5 hours. So a really efficient way to heat a space. This is 3.5 meters by 3.5 meters, and sometimes it's just, quite frankly, too hot in there. So really efficient way to heat spaces. Don't look too closely, probably a bit messy. That's a workstation. There was a workstation in the other corner and a cupboard, and that's all we've needed for 2 people. We don't have kids. I suppose you'd need a bigger space, possibly a space to throw the kids. Lovely sun chaser flower. We just passed. Just at the bottom of the shelf, there's a water tap from the 2 tanks that we'll soon pass. And on the left-hand side now, that tap is connected to the mains. We try and use that only for dishwashing and washing ourselves, because that's connected to a black coil of pipe on the roof that gets warm that I'll show you now. Note that there is no drainage or sewer system here. The water goes straight into a bucket and goes into the gardens. You do not need a sewer system. In other words, you do not need someone else to come in and build something for you and apply lots of concrete and cement, etc. You have the power to change the way you use resources and what you do with the consequence of using those resources. So we'll pass the trees now. Notice again, they're in the living area. Lots of different indigenous trees that I pee on a lot. Some of them don't like being peed on too much, but most of them are quite fine with that. Bottom right, 2 bins. The second smaller one has the vegetable matter that is left over from cooking and things. That goes into the compost along with some other materials that I'll talk about soon. You'll see there's 1 water tank there. It's one of 2. And this will be a bit of a blur, I think, but that's a lemon tree, a bunch of different plants, just a real variety of stuff happening here. And I think that's the strength of the system. It's really a diverse ecosystem that will just keep on producing. Even if we're not there to keep it neat, it will still create variety, very vibrant, diverse ecosystem. That is a parabolic solar cooker that boils water in about 10 minutes on a sunny day, 20 on a less sunny day. At least you could bring the water in the kettle up to almost boiling and then use the gas just for the last 20 seconds to bring it to a boil. We cook food on that within half an hour to an hour, sometimes in a pressure cooker for sure. You can fry eggs on that in sunny weather. It's South Africa. Why wouldn't you use that? And some people have said, oh, yeah, well, it's metal. It's a messy resource. Well, the amount of energy that device is creating far outweighs the amount of energy that went into creating it. It's going to outlive me. It's stainless steel. It's a really efficient way of cooking. All right, just want to show you very quickly the coil of black piping on our roof. We have no other means of heating water other than obviously in a kettle on the fire. This provides hot water to wash our dishes in as well as to shower in. So you do have to adapt your activities to the heat of the day. I will say that in summer it is too hot to shower in this. The water that comes out of this pipe, I could pipe in cold water, but we just have adapted ourselves to showering when it's appropriate to do so, and I think there's a lot to be said for that. The other water tank, again, just a real variety of trees and plants and herbs and shrubs, flowers. The bees always have something to eat here. So that's corn. This wasn't a successful corn season because of the drought, but it doesn't matter. You do adapt to the different cycles that nature goes through. There were a lot of other vegetables that came out of this garden. So you'll just see that was, I think, sprouting broccoli in the middle. There's a tomatillo tall plant on the far right-hand side, pepper dews. That's a bean tower. That was wormwood. I zoomed into a very medicinal plant. A lot happening, and that's kind of the point. Vibrant diversity. Going past some gooseberries, geranium, all indigenous stuff, kale, more gooseberries, another bean tower on the back left, more sprouting broccoli. A lot of stuff happening, right? More trees, again, just in the local area so that you can care for them a lot. The buckets. Guess what's in those buckets? Yeah, you guessed it. Feces. Human manure or humanure. Let me say that it makes for the best compost I've ever seen, and everyone who sees it says it's the best compost they've ever seen. So I can fit the contents of 8 of those buckets into a cubic meter and then appropriately add a variety of other materials to make the compost. It gets really hot, so it kills the pathogens, and it's a really fantastic compost. So we flush with more compost, no water, and this is our shower. The water from this shower gets caught in the bath and runs out into the orchard I'm about to show you. So that's a peach tree. There's several peach trees in this orchard. I think there's about 10 fruit trees. It's an orchard that you don't have to water anymore because, well, I think it's about 3.5 years old, and it kind of cares for itself. Now, we don't get fruit from it yet. The birds tend to get it, but there's value in that. We don't need to get fruit from this orchard yet. The point is that gradually with time it will get stronger, it will produce more, it will require less attention as it gets older. Obviously now it's a bit messy, it would need to be kind of cleaned if you want to walk comfortably through there. That's a citrus tree on the bottom. There we go, quite green. And again, just a variety and abundance of stuff happening. Notice possibly what look like a lot of weeds. There are a lot of weeds. However, most of them are edible. So we use some of the weeds as spinach. You can cook it down, add some garlic. They make for really nice relishes. In the background, the 1,000-litre water tank. We could put a much bigger water tank there, but actually our water needs are quite sorted at this point. A bit of a messy wood pile in the background, which you'll see again soon. Those walls have been really useful to us, really good for insects, little animals, rats and mice, and they seep. The wood piles seep nutrients back into the system gradually and gradually become compost. You just have to have some patience. So I think we're going full circle now. This is another view of the front of house. And, I've really enjoyed living a mostly outdoors lifestyle over the past 5 years. I'm going to keep trying to live mostly outdoors using a sustainable approach to living. I think this homestead speaks for itself. Sorry, it's been a bit shaky. I'm going to compensate for my lack of video and filming skills by artistically focusing in on the South African sunrise and bidding you all farewell. Thank you for your time.